Good afternoon, everybody. Had some technical issues to work out here, but the show must go on. Welcome to you all. John, I do have a question. Am I able to see them? I don't see anyone.
Let me see. Can you see like one
I can see you.
bar on top or right bottom?
Yes, hold on 2 seconds. Yes, I should be able to see. Here we go. Show video grid. Okay, I still don't see people. All right. Well, I'll continue on here, and then we'll see what we can do as we go along. I'm introducing. My name's Mary Prichard with the Los Angeles Unified School District. I will be showing a little bit about how the Los Angeles Unified School District, at least from my department's perspective, which is the Master Planning and Demographics Unit, and then I will open it up for comments and conversation. If there is something pressing you'd like to ask, then I'm happy to field questions. Otherwise, at the end, we can talk further. We all know that COVID-19 is causing major shifts in how public services are and will be delivered. The challenges for I'll call it the LAUSD, Los Angeles Unified School District, and also I'll refer to our unit, Master Planning and Demographics, as MPD. The challenges for LAUSD really center on how to safely and equitably serve its students and their families and the community at large. At the same time that things are changing due to COVID, really certain district operations have to continue with some degree of business as usual during these unusual times. For Master Planning and Demographics, MPD, business as usual includes the production of enrollment and birth projections, which is really the demand side of the equation. Analyzing the operational capacities at school sites as it relates to enrollment, that's the supply side. Attendance boundary and resident area analysis and management. Our office is also responsible for GIS analysis and mapping, including if you look online at the LAUSD boundary or district-wide maps, that's more than likely coming from our office. And then ensuring that families can participate in the state-mandated open enrollment program in time for the upcoming school year. And as I said in this roundtable, I'll focus on some of the ways in which LAUSD and in particular MPD have been working behind the scenes to keep the show running at the second largest school district in the nation. Then we'll have an opportunity to share some ideas and discuss some COVID-related planning and response among the other participants. And unfortunately, I don't see you nor know where you're coming from, but hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk about that. And I suspect some of you are coming from public agencies also. And give me a second, I am working with two monitors here. For context, I do this now regularly when I come to the roundtable. I situate the LAUSD within the Southern California region. We are the second, we're the largest school district in California, and we serve almost the entire city of Los Angeles, along with all or portions of 26 cities and unincorporated areas in the LA County area. And the LAUSD is the second largest employer in the county, second only to the county government itself. 2 seconds here. The district currently serves over 550,000 school-age children with a total enrollment of almost 700,000 if early education and adult education included. So I thought I'd give us an opportunity to see, as we did with Walter Schwarm, the DOF, and some of the other panelists, to look at some of the historical and the projected trends that we see in enrollment in this case. As we heard from Walter Schwarm on day one, this year's state population projections were adjusted downward, and as recent events are unfolding, we too at LAUSD are waiting to see how and to what degree the demographic, in particular for us, it's just enrollment patterns are influenced by these recent events. For instance, some of the questions we have are, will the the unemployment and underemployment play out in terms of an outmigration of, particularly outmigration of families? My question is, will we have a little baby boom? All these stay-at-home orders, it's possible. How will dropout ratings change? There have been big challenges in getting students to log on remotely. So at the moment, our current projections for K-12 graded enrollment show that LAUSD will continue to experience enrollment decline through the projection horizon, and that is in contrast to the enrollment growth leading up to the new millennium, where we peaked at about 710,000 graded K-12 students. And from that peak, the 2002-2003 school year, we then see from there forward till this school year, we have basically had a continued decline, and declined as much as a fifth of that, enrollment peak in 2002. When we look at current year to a projection horizon, we are saying that we will continue to decline at about 1 to 2% a year. We don't see at this moment any notable rebounds, and then looking at approximately a 17% decline further. One of the reasons we see this decline occurring is birth rates, and in particular, the number of births occurring within the LAUSD boundary. When we heard Walter Schwarm again talking about statewide trends, we heard him say we have a TFR of about 1.5 rather, and that's below replacement. So statewide, we're seeing the similar phenomenon. But particular for LAUSD, it's what's happening at the city, at the county, and in particular within our own boundaries. So we see locally that LA City and county are both experiencing declines in the number of births. Now for enrollment purposes, we look at births with a 5-year offset to use as a predictor for kindergarten enrollments, future kindergarten enrollments. And so for our question, for us to have the most accuracy we can, we have been able to obtain individual birth records from the state of California, and then be able to analyze it as it relates to those addresses for people giving birth that exist within the LAUSD boundary. And yes, MPD's own analysis of the individual births, live births, show that among people who reside within the district boundary, fewer are having children. Live births inside the LAUSD used to represent approximately 48% of all LA County births. However, since 2012, the proportion has been in decline and is now approximately 45% of the county births. So this means that people who are living within the LAUSD boundary and are of childbearing age are having fewer children, and then those who or no children at all. So with these downward trends, fewer births are likely to translate into fewer K-12 enrollments, in the future years with fewer kindergartners entering into the enrollment stream at the LAUSD. So as births and enrollments are declining, that means that LAUSD expects to receive less funding, because that's on a per pupil basis from the state. However, the costs of putting on the show remain, and in fact begin to mount with having to work with the new COVID-19 realities. Even then, the show must go on. So let's take some look at the ways that MPD staff have responded to the unexpected challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, and how equity has been part of the quick-paced planning and implementation. So at the direction of the superintendent's office, master planning and demographics have been responding to questions and scenarios that are related to how schools can reopen for the coming year. And using the eCar and the eCast online applications that Master Planning and Demographics developed and are managing, our office has provided the timely and accurate facilities and enrollment analysis that runs some feasibility studies, again, related to the use of facilities and whether specific proposals to reopen with the COVID-19 restrictions are possible. For instance, questions like, are there enough seats at school sites to accommodate all students and incorporate social distancing protocols? And so here we see the ECAST application shows school administrators and central office administrators' current enrollment that exists at school sites, and then forecasted enrollment for that school site. And then we then look at that relative to each school site's number of classrooms, classroom utilization, and began to put those two together to see if there is possibility for either increasing the number of rooms that can be dedicated to instruction, whether there can be enough space at all on site in order to have some of these scenarios that have been presented to us actually work out in terms of facilities solution, or whether there just has to be an operational solution to these COVID days. As part of one of our immediate responses, again at the direction of the superintendent, was we were tasked with creating an online resource, which is shown here, which supports the district's internal data-driven decision-making processes and responses regarding COVID-19. This online map you're looking at uses real-time data from the CDC, LA County Department of Health, Public Health, and other sources to inform decision makers of the geographic patterns and infection rates among the communities served by the LAUSD. So this is being maintained by Master Planning and Demographics, and is continuing to assist behind the scenes in the decision making. On another front, with school sites being closed, the district has been faced with the equity challenges surrounding providing access to services such as enrolling for next year. Typically, enrollment has been available online, but very much centrally at the school sites. And there have been, and I'm going to talk specifically about the open enrollment process, paper applications available for parents, so they could come into a school site, have a paper application, fill it out there, get assistance in filling it out, and then school staff submit that to the central offices to be processed. Well, school sites have been closed, so master planning and demographics, along with other offices, had to quickly develop alternative procedures, which would continue to allow families to enroll, particularly those who have no or unreliable broadband access. And so part of that included, and here we see online, there is the ability to apply online, and then paper applications was one of the options. But what MPD had to do quickly was to come up with a way that parents could enroll in the open enrollment process, which is a California state mandated program allowing parents and their guardians to enroll their children at a school other than their current or resident school of attendance. And so we were pressed to quickly come up with the alternative way to ensure that families could participate. So MPD, what we did was we dedicated staff time to manning phones, got our phone number included in the LAUSD hotline, and then we have staff who answer phones and field questions, and then we'll fill out the application on behalf of the students and families. So the revised process was announced to school administrators via the ECAST application. And here we see we alerted them that the process had changed. They were able to, when they could and when their sites opened enough, or rather through their communication lines, begin to inform families. And so we've been fielding calls, and we are finding that maybe not unexpectedly, we're getting calls a little later in the season than we would have typically, because people are just trying to catch up and figure out how they can work and get their kids enrolled without the school sites being open. So enrolling students, not only for this open enrollment process, but in general, requires a knowledge of what schools serve individual addresses throughout the district. And as part of our usual operations, MPD, we manage an underlying master address file, which is the source data for the district's online resident school finder. And provides the underlying data for the enrollment functionality, as well as other services. So here, LAUSD refers to the enrollment site here refers to the resident school finder. And what the resident school finder allows is for the public and LAUSD staff to type in addresses, and then to be able to have information about what resident school serves that address. And as we can see here, the address 1414 West Vernon. When the results come up, we see that there are 2 K-5 elementary programs, one of which is a dual language immersion program, 1 middle school and 1 high school that is serves that address. All of these responses are part of the district's attempt to have equitable access to these public school choice and equity in a number of other services that have been revised in order to accommodate the fact that schools sites have been closed. One of the district's largest undertakings from the beginning of the COVID response has been the implementation of grab-and-go centers, food centers throughout the district. Under master planning and demographics was involved. Well, let me say a little about the grab-and-go food centers. It's a program. It was initiated by and funded by the LAUSD, and is also funded by currently the LA Food Bank, USDA and others to deliver 2 meals per day for students per weekday and staff daily during the week. At this point, over 30 million meals have been available to students during the school site closures. And the food centers are located throughout the district and they're staffed, as I said, weekdays. And each child can take home 2 meals daily. So MPD was involved in, particularly our GIS specialists, involved in supporting this effort by supplying analysis, which helped locate appropriate sites for the grab-and-go centers. This information was used to set up the centers and informs the online tool which families can use to search for grab-and-go locations. Along with other community organizations in your neighborhood who can provide other essential services. Additionally, when the families go to the grab-and-go centers, there are paper copies available listing key communities resources available to them. So beyond providing these immediate COVID-19 responses and analysis while schools and central offices are closed, MPD has had to carry out all of these activities as well as our day-to-day set of responsibilities while most of us shifted to working remotely. That was new, fairly new. I mean, at the scale that it happened for the district, it was brand new. I'm proud to say that our unit, Master Planning and Demographics, our staff have made the transition relatively smoothly and have been continuing to successfully deliver on the kinds of products that that support the district's mission through the research and analysis needed for the long-range planning and short-range planning that ultimately optimize the utilization of existing schools and determine the need for any other types of facility uses. I will say, I guess funny enough, about during Steve Levy's presentation, my computer crashed. So about 15 minutes before the roundtable, I had concerns that my technology was failing. But other than that, we've been doing quite well working from home, and from what we understand, we will be doing that for at least another couple of months while the district figures out what the central office reopening looks like as well, if that actually will occur. So in summary, there are fundamental questions for the district, and one of them is how to put on the show to provide the equitable access to education safely and effectively in these times of COVID-19 and with social distancing in place and other safety measures that must be in place. Our unit has been working with the decision makers to respond to this pandemic by assisting in developing alternative methods of service delivery, providing current and relevant data-driven enrollment and capacity analysis, creating the GIS-based mapping and analysis, managing accurate data so that it can serve as source data for various district applications. We also have had to conduct business as usual, and this includes producing enrollment and birth projections, analyzing operational capacity at the school sites, maintaining and preparing for changes to attendance boundary and resident area analysis for the upcoming year. The GIS analysis and mapping is always part of our business. If there's a takeaway, it's that the LAUSD is only one of the many public agencies tasked with the responsibility to unwaveringly provide the people of California with essential services. Most especially in times such as these, we as public servants must serve the public good by making sure that the show must go on. So with that, I'll open it up for roundtable conversation. And what I'd like to do is take a minute here to see if I am able to see anyone or hear anyone. John?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Can you help me with this? Is there,
Yeah, there was an excellent presentation. So we have 26 participants, including Mary and me. So let's see if there's anyone has any question. Unmute yourself and just ask question.
Yeah, unmute
Yeah.
yourself.
So if you have any comments, question.
Well, if not, I'm trying to open up my screen here. I only see John and myself, so that's too bad. I like to see folks and their faces here.
Yeah.
Anybody? Let's see here. Well, if I don't see questions, if folks don't have questions, I'd like to open it up to participants and see. I'm sure some of you are working at public agencies. I'm pretty sure that there's somebody from the public health department. Is there a Louise participating? Not to put you on the spot, but if you're here, I think this is an opportunity for us to talk about how either talk about the LAUSD, which I'm happy to do some more, or have some opportunity to talk about this experience that we are having as in public agencies that have been having to respond to this pandemic. And so is there anybody who's interested in offering something? Come on down, put on a show. Is there anyone we're seeing? Oh wait, 26. Oh, here we go. I have their names here. Very good. Okay. Oh, nobody wants the video on. Okay. How about Louise? I see you there. Megan, would you like to share anything?
I see Luis's hand.
Oh, good. Louise, is your mic?
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
We can hear you.
I just wanted to say that it was a great presentation. And I think it'll be really interesting. I think that you said that there might be some sort of a birth blip, maybe, as a result.
I knew that would get your attention. Well, I don't know. I was sort of half-heartedly and humorously putting that out there. I don't think that even with that, we will see, that would significantly change the projections for the overall K-12 enrollment. But I don't know. What do you think? You're at the public health agency.
I'm not really sure. I think it's, I really have no idea. But it is something that that we have been seeing for, well, since the recession, there's been such a decline in births. And so it is really impressive to see that in your presentation, the number of LA Unified School District students, the number, just, I think, was it like 100,000 less?
Well, let me see. I'm going to get back to my presentation there. And well, what happened? Here we go. Let me share real quick. You mean in births?
In actual students.
Oh, well, yes. Oh, yes. It's significant. We had about as I say, almost a quarter uh, decline of 21% since 2002. And we went from 710,000 to now about 560 or so. So that is significant. And then right now the projections are projecting for another 17%. Yes, significant. Now that's not just due to births, but the other issues. But again, here we see that with births, very sharp decline, and then Walter Schwerman said they're expecting decline into their future projections. And in particular, these are happening within the LAUSD boundary. Now, what's interesting is there's the LAUSD boundary, and then there is the county. So that's why it's been so important for our office to be able to get birth records, individual birth records, because we then can analyze this within LAUSD's boundaries, addresses which fall within the boundary. Because even if there's an address just outside the LAUSD boundary, well, that doesn't mean that that address is assigned to the LAUSD. So what happens in the county is one thing, but what happens within the county obviously is another in terms of our interest in how many students we would expect to get from the births. And in terms of some of the other factors that affect enrollments, there's also the issue of migration, and I didn't include it here, but that too, a county level statistic helps us, but well, you have a lot of intra-county migration. So even if a family migrates from inside the LAUSD boundary to further east into El Monte or Montebello, or going further east, then they're still in the county. You won't see that reflected in the county level statistics, but that will affect LAUSD quite significantly if we have a continued out-migration from the LAUSD boundary just to cities east or north of the boundary or south. So it's been really important for us to get the data at the local level in order to be able to get better grasps on these trends by using this kind of very local by address birth data. What about with the health department? What are you seeing things happening yet? I mean, we haven't quite, we haven't seen the impacts of as most of the presenters were talking about is the economic short-term economic challenges that we're having. But what is there anything you can share that you've seen from the public health side?
Well, I wish I could. I feel like our department has spent so much of its staff and resources on the COVID effort that we really, I haven't. I usually do look at birth trends, and I just haven't had a chance. I am really interested and can't wait till I can do that. But I think the trends are still continuing to go down. I think that there was a recent article for California that births have gone down again. So, and that was just about a few weeks ago that came out. So.
Yeah, and I don't know what you thought of Steve Levy. He was saying, hey, well, let's not blind ourselves by what's happening in the short term. And maybe birth trends will not continue downward. Maybe we will have more people of childbearing age who decide to have families, and for that matter, maybe a few more kids instead of one, maybe two. I thought 1.5 TFR. Yep, that's quite interesting. That puts us in with the countries that are quite concerned about losing their population over time.
That's true, and it's just only a few years ago that it was. Surprised that it was, 1.9, 1.8. So it's just in a very short number of years. It's the total fertility rate being that low is quite surprising. So
right, and remember in the 80s, with a lot of international immigration, with California not just being a stopover for immigrants, but immigrants would come to California and stay and raise their families. And so some of these migration characteristics have changed. We're not necessarily the destination, we are the stopover to other places and other states, even neighboring states, which have a more affordable cost of living. And so we've seen a number of things that have really impacted quite significantly, as you can see, Los Angeles is LAUSD's enrollment patterns. And then with that, the cost of maintaining the buildings doesn't go down. The cost of keeping things open and running, it doesn't go down. The cost of staffing doesn't go down. So we're in challenging times, and the superintendent just announced some measures to from his perspective, deal with the anticipated reduction in revenues, and then there's the what's I going to say? Then we have the issue of what does it look like in the short term and the longer term as far as education. And I will say that there was a big effort to at least get students the hotspots and some laptop computers to use so that they could learn remotely. There have been efforts to get, obviously also teachers trained. I frankly, if there's any teachers here, I hats off to you, because I know that it's been a very big challenge for you, shifting from classroom to online learning in many ways. But does anybody else have anything they'd like to offer? And I wish I could see where you're from. I see how. Suho, Anya, Teresa, Ben. Usually I have a couple of questions that people ask, or if they're from other school districts, we share some information at the roundtable. Is there anyone from another school district participating? No hands raised. Oh, I have a chat. Variant, okay. Oh, the demographer for San Diego. Hi, Sarah. Wow, thank you. Are you willing to talk off of turn your mic on? I know that, I think maybe you attended in the past, someone from San Diego Unified attended, and yes, you're right. Okay, yes, we did. Hi, Sarah. Yes, you're right. With LAUSD and in our department, I will say this, Sarah, though, we are taxed with the staff that we have. We are taxed with having and then also having to produce our usual set of deliverables. And So so I hear you on your small staff, and are you willing to share anything about how San Diego Unified has responded? I know they must have had school closures, and did all the students have, did most of the students have access to broadband? Oh, you're the only staff. Oh, interesting. Okay, okay. Well, so a lot of the action is happening in other departments. Learning with mixed results. The same held true for LAUSD. Well, I advantages for some of the materials needed for the district. So it seems like our two districts are coordinating on for certain projects. Oh, and is my connection in and out? I'm sorry. Well, with that, oh, okay, Sarah's saying my office also has one person doing capacity analysis. Please feel free. And if not, then I'll say then. And see if that helps. Okay. Well, well, I thank you for all for your participation. Feel free to reach out to me at the LAUSD if you have any more questions or would like to talk about operations or anything else regarding the work that we do. I say to everybody, be well, and we will continue on and in each of our own ways keep the show going on, and hope work toward a more greater equity and greater health. I will comment on one of the presenters' comments, which was, please wear your masks. I'm all for wearing masks. I would have had mine, but I figure we're safe enough behind the screen here. All right, everybody. Again, thank you for your participation, and be well.
Thanks, Mary. Please join me thanking for Mary's excellent presentation and discussion. We will post the older presentation and recordings on our website shortly after finishing our workshop. We look forward to seeing you next year again, including Mary and others. And we hope you have a good rest of the week.
And John, I would like to say kudos to you and applause to all of you folks at SCAG. You put this on every year, so thank you.
Thank you all.
Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.